Welcome everybody to Pop Culture. I am Scott.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Monica.
And this episode is our first Directors Showcase, where we'll be talking about one director in particular, their work, their influence, and some of our favourite films of their oeuvre. And who else would we pick but Quentin Tarantino for our first episode? Because I feel like if we did Spielberg, it would just be me and Jason, like... oh, but how good is this one? How good is that one?
You know what? I actually think Tarantino's probably a better one for pop culture than Spielberg, because in terms of currency and influence on what we see, I actually think Tarantino's influenced more in other broader pop culture references. Just lately.
Lately.
Yeah.
Lately, yeah. Tarantino is one of the most, I think, he's shaped a generation of cinema. And, you know, he's also someone who's not without very valid criticisms and controversies, but he's incredibly influential, and there's this sense of style that he has, which so many people do try and emulate, and has captured something within movies as they're being presented right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's been, knocked off.
Countless times.
Huh. We were talking about, I think, was it Gunpowder Milkshake when we it was just like someone's review was like, I was trapped on a Quentin Tarantino themed roller coaster.
And you're not allowed off.
Exactly.
It went too long.
Yes, it did. So there's quite a collection of solid films here that we can talk about and things. But I mean, when I think of Tarantino personally, I think of this amazing writer. Like, some of his dialogue and his scripts are brilliant. I mean, he's an Oscar-winning writer for a reason. Like, he's really, really good at it. As far as a director goes, which I think is where he gets a lot of props and stuff, I think he's the master of appropriation. That's probably where I think of him as a director. I think he can take somebody else's vision and bend it to what he wants his movie to be.
I think that comes a little bit with him being a huge movie buff himself. He has this reverence and this almost encyclopedic knowledge of all these different kinds of cinema. And sometimes I feel when watching his movies, and it's not a complaint because I really like his style, is he's just trying to pull as much as possible from them and be like, and I need you to get this reference, and oh, what about this one? And how about this one? Everyone, guys, be impressed, please.
Yeah, I think one of the main identifying aspects to Tarantino is, if you know what Post-Modernism is, it's a suggestion that everything's already been done before. And what he tends to do is he pulls in our pop culture experience into the dialogue. You know, you think Reservoir Dogs, talking about Madonna. It's to the type of films that he brings together and mashes stuff together, like Pulp Fiction. And he's just done that at exactly the right moment in history or film history to pretty much redirect how these films are being put together and made. And that ability to do the dialogue that's funny. Scott got his coffee and he's got a big smile on his face. I'm just wondering whether, you know...
Delivery, sorry. Go on.
Whether it's like a fast food chain that we could mention, but things like that. The fast food, all mentioned. What was it? I've forgotten the name of the burgers now.
Where they do get their burgers from?
Yeah.
Is oh my god!
Yeah, see. This is going to do their heads in now. But anyway, the fact that they're eating takeaway food. You've got all of this sort of gangster stuff that's gangsters talking about. That's it, the Kahuna Burger. It is pulp, and it is really showing this love for these popular aspects to cinema and bringing it together in a way that is usually really funny, I have to say. His strength is actually his comedy. His writing, and the comedy can be a bit hard to swallow for some people because it gets mixed with violence quite heavily. but it's amazing how well he does that. And then the other part I'd have to say is he just is able to revisit music that's you forget how effective it is
and make it really work in, like, change the meaning of a song. Like, Stuck in the Middle for You used to be a really fun song, and now when I hear it, it's like, oh, this is sinister for some reason, because I watched Michael Manson torture someone to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you sort of see other films try and do covers of famous songs. Like the one that I can remember most recently was the cover of the Nirvana song in the beginning of Black Widow. And it's not the same. It just feels like a cheap imitation. Whereas Tarantino does use music in a way to really affect things and really turn itself on its head.
Yeah, well, this is a guy who once upon a time was like, I'd never use I'd never use a score in a film.
Yeah.
To go forward to have one of his movies win Best Original Soundtrack.
Yeah, change the bloody tune.
Well, you don't. I mean, you're gonna get Ennio Morricone. You're gonna do it well.
Yeah, exactly right.
So I think
he's got like one of the ultimate soundtrack composers there. So
yeah,
it still sort of fits his mode of operandi, if you want. It's this case of he lives and breathes film, and he wants to celebrate that in his films. And majority of the time, he succeeds.
Yes,
every once in a while, there's a few that don't.
But there's more I love than I don't like.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And also that comes back to his writing process as well when he's putting a film together. He's said in many interviews that he sort of approaches it like writing a novel before formatting everything into a script. And after he said that the first time I heard him say that, it makes a lot of sense. It's almost sometimes when you're watching his movies, this structure, everything's told sometimes in a linear way or a non-linear way, but everything is always divided up into chapters, or there'll be a character arc that goes from one extreme to the other. And I was just like, he's prepared this ahead of time, and he's not let it come maybe naturally as you would for a script, but he has put a story together like a book.
He also and I think it's evident in the amount of films that he's made. It's like he takes his time. If he's making a film, it's like he's obviously put a lot of work into it. It's something like, I can't think of one that's rushed.
No, and that's actually a sign of someone who is, I guess, carefully considering what they're putting together and how an audience might take it.
It's like a strange form of like auteurism. Like he's absolutely an auteur filmmaker. I think there's no arguing that, but it's sort of like he's a prism and reflects these other styles and ideas. And like Jason was saying, with like his view on obviously and love of popular culture, he's able to refract that in a way that is, one, very palatable. Sometimes some people don't like Tarantino. Some people really don't like Tarantino. But if you're the sort of person that it strikes a chord with, you love it. Yeah,
that's exactly right. He's often said as well that he's going to retire after a 10th film. Do you think he's going to, or do you think he's going to keep going?
Well, all I know is he's got Kill Bill Volume 3 in the pre-production stages.
Oh, is that actually happening?
But he considers Kill Bill 1 and 2 one film.
He does consider it one film. That's
so I think we've got at least 2 more, maybe. But I mean, if he's keeping the steady pace and like it's good.
Yeah, I would personally love to see his Star Trek film.
There's a few that they've pipped for him to do, isn't there?
I would love to see it.
Kirk walks onto the room. Did someone call me a bitch?
Yeah, see, I don't see him doing that, to be honest.
Mainstream?
No, I think it'll be
it's too limiting on the writing.
Star Trek. Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I think it's too limiting on his writing.
Written it.
Oh, he's written it? No.
Yeah, he pitched it to Paramount.
With J.J. Abrams, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm just
surprised.
Just
this conflict between the direction they're going with Star Trek, with the more back to TV rather than movies.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so we've had like Discovery, Picard. We've got two new Star Trek shows coming up. Like they're not really focusing on movies anymore. But I would watch a Tarantino Star Trek movie. I
Yeah,
imagine it would be some sort of twisted thing. But I'm sure he could do it, and I'd love to see him do a science fiction film. He certainly dips his toe into genres, but in his kind of way.
Yeah, definitely. I think sci-fi would be perfect for someone like him. He's already played with alternative histories. To me, sci-fi seems to be the next natural step.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a horror film, he's done a samurai film, he's done westerns, war film.
Heist, chase films.
Yeah, crime.
How to crime.
Gangsters and stuff.
I do think he's more comfortable in the heroes type gangster cowboy genres. He sort of tends to stick to that more than anything.
He does it exceptionally well.
Yeah, I sort of see him as his strength lies in sort of like this neo-noir kind of theme. You've got these characters who commit these extremely violent crimes, but, it's not without, motivations and the narrative sort of pattern.
You get this, like, you walk this line between criminals being celebrated and stuff. His films, they always seem to be comeuppance. There's always a hard lesson for the characters to learn, and it's usually abrupt and horrible.
It is. It's also, I think, more sociologically driven than psychologically driven. It's about the things that are happening around the character.
Yeah.
That's just my take on it.
All right. What was the first one you saw? What was the first Tarantino film you saw?
First one I ever saw was Pulp Fiction.
Nice.
Which, I love that movie very much.
Kill Bill.
Mine was all in order. So it was Reservoir Dogs. I didn't see that at the movies though. That was
Jason.
Yeah.
You took your partner on a date to see Pulp Fiction, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
I does not appreciate that. And she's over here sitting on the couch at the moment, wondering what we're talking about in terms of our first date being Pulp Fiction.
First date?
And her reaction was this. So, and doesn't let me live it down.
Count yourself lucky. That is a beautiful first date.
I would love to be taking.
I'll let you debate that.
Next time I see her, that'll be our conversation. I did go take a lady to see Sin City. That was a mistake.
Sin City, yeah, that goes above Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. Look, we're not perfect, but we're close.
Yeah. But I'd already seen it though, so it was that was the second time I saw it and wanted to go back and see it again. I don't believe I saw Jackie Brown at the cinema. It was one that I already heard sort of bad things about, and
it's still got incredible reviews.
Yeah,
which is odd because I do not like it at all.
I attempted it afterwards. Yeah, I just got bored, and I don't know. Maybe it was just like a genre of film or one of those things that just didn't speak to me at all. Yeah, like I live in Australia. I don't really experience a lot of that, and in terms of the films, I probably haven't seen enough of them to appreciate what was being done with that film. So there's that as well. So I'll just say that I'm maybe ignorant.
Maybe that's why it didn't work for me either. Yeah. Kill Bill, I totally got, and when I saw it, I was just like, it was like the first time I think I'd watched a movie where I was just like gobsmacked by how violent it was.
Yeah. I don't think I was thrown by the violence. I think even Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, but you were a bit older than I was. But but I saw Kill Bill first. Like,
oh, okay, yes, yeah.
So I would have been like 13 or 14.
Yeah, it's comic violence to some points too. But interestingly though, I actually think he drew from his contested techniques of natural born killers in the different media shown throughout Kill Bill. And
Yeah, 'cause it dips
even
in
though he didn't
anime
like
and-
what was done with natural born killers, I sort of saw some of that showing up in Kill Bill, interestingly.
Yeah, Kill Bill is an interesting one. It's my favorite Tarantino film. Volume 1 is just, it's, for me, a perfect movie. But in contrast, I am not a huge fan of natural born killers.
Oh, they're different, very different.
Like both, but they're very different.
I'm talking about probably the use of the media, of the black and white, and the changing
And anime.
tones and palettes and anime, and
Completely, all the different media formats. Yeah, it works in that film very effectively.
So that was an interesting one. But yeah, so Reservoir Dogs was on video, like a VHS or something. But then Pulp Fiction would be the one that I'd say, oh, now I'm going to take notice of who the director is, and that was it.
Yeah, I saw Kill Bill, and then sometime after that, like probably year 10, 11, 12, where we also like experienced cinema a bit more. I remember someone being like, "Oh, Pulp Fiction, like you've got to see this, like it's so good." And yeah, we were young and we all watched Pulp Fiction, and that's when I was like, "This is amazing." And then I went to see Death Proof at the cinema. It was my first like Tarantino movie at the cinema, and I've seen them all at the cinema since. And Death Proof was an odd one.
Absolutely,
it's a really odd one. It's his attempt, I guess, at horror, but it's different.
Death Proof is also one of the ones that strangely the pacing is a little bit off for me.
I think because it was meant to be kind of like watching it by itself, it's like kind of clunky.
Yes.
But when you watch the cut down version as part of the Grindhouse
Roadshow
movie, like when you watch Planet Terror and then Death Proof back to back, and they're both cut down versions, they're really good.
Yeah, fair enough.
It sort of just
still prefer Planet Terror.
Yeah, I did, but I've on repeated viewings, I think I prefer Death Proof now.
Okay.
Which is, my view changed. But that's an interesting experiment, and it's interesting that he and Rodriguez decided to do something like that. It obviously didn't work because no one went and saw it.
But you have to appreciate the power move.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, and then he did the roadshow thing again with Hateful Eight, which was one of the best cinematic experiences I've ever had.
Is that admittedly, I've still not seen Hateful Eight. That's the one that has the intermission in the middle?
In the roadshow version. Yes.
In the roadshow version. Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be actually quite fun.
So they did it I had to go into the city, and it was a 70mm screening. It was all on film. They, at the beginning, they gave you a playbill when you went in. So it had like all the actors and the cast and behind the scenes stuff in it. And then, it did an overture. So it played like the theme, and it just had a picture of a stagecoach on the screen. And it played the Ennio Morricone overture before the movie started. Then you watch the film, and then it has this intermission. And it's when you watch that film, and if you deliberately stop where the intermission is, and we're all sitting in the cinema like talking about it, it was really cool, like to have that break right at this moment where there's like a big twist, to like sit in silence and contemplate what you've just experienced. It was amazing.
Yeah, it would be. And sometimes I feel that a lot of films, when you go see them, because they're getting progressively longer and longer, it doesn't give you a lot of time to breathe and to think, because it just goes to the next piece. So that's a whole other discussion. Yes, it is.
epic films. So I think after Kill Bill, we get into like Death Proof, Inglourious Basterds, Django, Hateful Eight, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is this kind of more, I think, well, I guess Kill Bill's kind of more of a Hollywood film as well, but you can definitely see that as studio budget and stuff. He's obviously still in complete control, but his movies aren't costing $5 million to make anymore.
No, they're not.
And I think this is where I really love Tarantino. Like Inglourious, Django, and Hateful Eight, I would struggle to pick a favorite. That's how much I love those three. It would probably be Django, though. If you were a gun to my head and you made me pick one, there's something about the way he did a Western that just like was everything I never knew I wanted.
also the film that launched 1,000 Leonardo DiCaprio memes. So I'm entirely grateful to the movie.
Oh my goodness, the amount of times those memes. I've got
It's a gift for the internet.
I've got a mate who started the where he's like the laughing with the
with the drink in his hand.
He started an official like club with he and a group of friends, and they had jackets made with that face on the back.
I love it.
The Christoph Waltz in Inglourious and Django is just unbelievably watchable.
Yeah, I find a lot of the casting choices that Tarantino makes are always pretty spot on, and Christoph Waltz is one of those wonderful additions to his, I guess, cinematic universe. Just such a powerhouse of performer, so good. And even though I don't necessarily like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood very much, I really enjoy Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in it. Really,
Brad Pitt. Like I was like, I've always thought Brad Pitt's pretty good, but in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he was just really good.
I prefer Brad Pitt when he's in ensembles because I feel that he works a little bit better with people who push him a little bit more. I don't rate him on his own, but he did turn a very good performance in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Which is not my favorite Tarantino film. I actually find it quite boring in places. Long? Yeah. It needs an intermission.
Yeah, I don't think I found Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as boring as Jackie Brown. I found that it was certainly inspiring thought in me more than some of his other films have, in a more meditative way in terms of about acting, about Hollywood, about revisiting or revisioning history. And, just all the performances in it made me just keep going back to moments long after I watched it, probably more than his other films. The other ones I all remember because it was sort of more exciting and a visceral experience that you can easily quote. Whereas Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's not like that. It's not one where you could make memes out of it that easily. And
except for Leo pointing at the TV.
But
that's the only moment.
Yeah, and I actually really enjoyed that one, probably more than it sounds like you guys did.
I'm not by any stress saying it's bad. I own it. I've watched it like 3 times. It's just not my favorite.
No, maybe the reason I didn't maybe appreciate it as much as his other films is I always like to sort of like find the references that Tarantino's making, and I just couldn't make that connection just because I don't know enough about maybe 60s pop culture and film. So I couldn't connect with it in a way that I normally would. And I did sort of see it as this sort of more refined Hollywood love letter, but I couldn't help but find it to be a little bit pretentious in a way too. And also the Manson family. There's something about that particular part of history and crime that I find a little bit repugnant as well.
Because it's disgusting.
Because it's disgusting, and what happened to Sharon Tate and all those other people in that house was horrible, and I just couldn't really put myself. I couldn't reconcile with it, and I just thought maybe the revisionist history to sort of save those individuals in the house at the end. It just sort of hit a little bit shallow to me.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah. I have to say, I didn't. The end is probably the only bit I didn't really enjoy. It was like, it was more all the in between parts that
when they were making movies and stuff.
Yeah, where they're doing that, and then also where he does go into the Manson family's. What is it like?
The ranch.
The ranch. That tension there was just.
Oh, that was unreal.
That was a very good scene.
Yeah, so it was sort of like I liked it there. The sort of end part to me just seemed like a bit of a tack-on bit, and that's why I said it sort of made me start reflecting on it as this revisioning things. And I'd say Tarantino doesn't like what happened there, and he couldn't really cope with it either. That's why he's done that, and it's a shame. I think that's what devalues it in the end. And as I was saying, it's all that build up that I really enjoyed. That's where I found it quite.
Well, I think that's like I'm almost glad it wasn't like Tarantino's Charles Manson movie. Like I'm really, which is what it was certainly being touted as when it was first, because you can't avoid the Manson in the room, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the actor who played Manson in that film also played Manson in season 2 of
Mindhunter. What's his name? Damien.
Aussie bloke.
Damien Aussie bloke. Yeah.
Damien Aussie bloke.
He's actually a really good actor. He's.
Yes. Yeah.
Hang on, I'll find out for you.
Thank you.
Damien Herriman. Yeah, I know. It's just such a small part of the film, but I'm kind of, I'm glad it wasn't
They
what I
minimized
thought it was going to be. Yeah.
That was a concern of mine going into that movie.
Yeah, I remember, like, I don't know, Tarantino's this weird thing that, like, oddly I share with my mother. My wife hates Tarantino. But like when Inglourious Bastards came out, I was like to my mom, I'm like, you've just got to watch it, like give it a go. And she was like, loved it. Like what? Like I've never known my mother, who is quite like a fairly conservative woman, to watch this movie and then immediately start it again because she was just so like. So we saw them all, but she was like really put off by Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like really put off by the Manson stuff. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Loved it when they got their comeuppance, though.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's the revisioning. It's. I liked it, but I liked it for the wrong reason. I think it was just it ultimately what made it not work in its entirety. But I would back up DiCaprio and Pitt leading up to that, their characters and how their relationship. It's just such a
really
it
good.
seemed very authentic in some ways. So it was good. But yeah, in terms of the ranking of films, I guess we can go to that and dissect these a little more based on. I'll just say the bottom one for me is still Jackie Brown.
Jackie Brown, same.
And I've probably explained that.
I've never had any desire to revisit it, no matter what. I'm like, I'm just not interested.
But I'm happy for people to go, you're ignorant, you're naive, you don't understand, and I'll go, yep. I am.
Finger guns. I sure
I've
am.
actually tried it I've tried to watch it 3 times.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I watched it. I got through it once, and I was like, I did not like that at all.
No, I just couldn't keep going.
I've not seen Jackie Brown, so I don't really have a horse in this race, unfortunately. But my least favourite would have to be Death Proof. But that might just be because I'm missing that piece.
It'd be my close second.
Yeah, that's definitely my second. Yeah. So in terms of top 3, Scott, you want to start?
My top 3?
Or you can start with one of them.
I'll go Hateful Eight. Hateful Eight was this like just delightful. Like I've never been for it's his like TV shows you get the episode in a bottle, like the where all characters are stuck in one place. This is the ultimate bottle movie where you've got all these amazing larger than life characters trapped in a cabin, and someone killed somebody, and we've got to figure out who done it. And to shoot the entire thing in like ultra Panamax with these amazing, like every shot is done in ultra wide angle, even the close-ups. There's something about it that is like, whoa, this is cool. to the western in the snow, these kind of beautiful landscapes, and then to that absolutely phenomenal Ennio Morricone score is just wow. And Samuel L. Jackson just fucking smashes it in this movie. He's brilliant in it.
It's definitely one of my top 3, The Hateful Eight. I really did enjoy it. And yeah, it has that more grander feel to it than the normal Tarantino film too, in terms of the landscapes, and it just, you mix that, and I guess that's that wide angle, as you're saying. Even within this cabin, it's like a wide landscape of stuff going on, and
there's always something happening.
Filled with all these things. It's I really did enjoy that one. It's not my top one, but it's certainly up there as one of them. So there's one of my three.
Both of us, cool.
My number one is Kill Bill Volume 1. I just love everything about that movie. It's a love letter to Kung Fu movies. It's the ultimate story of revenge. The violence is funny, but also strangely beautiful, and the scenery is lush, and every performance is a good performance. Like Lucy Liu as Oren Ishii, wow. Just amazing.
They all walk the line between overacting but in that like perfect anime kind of way.
Yeah, I think the word that I would use to describe this movie is just charming. I find it
charming. Not
to each
the words
their
I
own.
use.
I know it's a weird one to pick, but there's just something about it. Whenever I watch
not a weird film to pick, just a weird way to
just
describe
a weird way to
it.
A weird adjective.
It is. Whenever it comes on, I get this stupid smile on my face because I'm about to watch Vivica A. Fox and Uma Thurman throw down in a house as the opening scene, because it's so good.
And this is the thing, right, where people like it's criticized for the violence and stuff. And there was an interview I remember watching with him, and they're like, why do you make movies this violent? He's like, because it's funny. And
Exactly.
He does have this way of making like this absurd amount of gore and violence, but he can make it funny.
It's not gore for gore's sake. It's there to show you how absurd it is. That's how I view.
It's not a realistic depiction of what happens when someone gets their head cut off. Like
no, exactly. When the bride cuts off Sophie's arm in the bar, and it's just like spraying around everywhere. No one would do that. She, lose consciousness immediately.
But it's funny.
It's funny.
And I think like in Django, where it's like the beginning where he's like, "Oh, all right," and he shoots the guy. It's this massive like. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I think Kill Bill is like, I think the first time I remember watching a movie that gory and just being like,
yeah.
Well, it's very comic style.
Yeah,
that's for sure. It's like, and when I say comic, I don't mean comedy. I mean comic, as in
comic book.
As in comic book, yeah. Mm. And quite literally as well, all of Oren's backstory is told through this anime sequence, which is very beautiful and, very effective, and it sort of nicely breaks up the film a little bit for you.
Yeah.
Good choice.
It is.
Not in my top 3, but very good choice.
That's fair.
It was close, but it's not there for me. Yeah. Scott, back to you, because we agreed on one of them.
Django Unchained.
Yeah, so this is one where it's not
highly
rated for me. No.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
It's the same awkward revisionist sort of stuff that just threw it for me watching it.
Okay. I don't know. I find it so gripping. In like it's one that I could watch from any point. I could just press play and happily watch the rest of the movie. You know what I mean? It just Jamie Foxx is fantastic. It's got that funny streak to it, the sort of dark humor. Christoph Waltz is just unbelievable. And DiCaprio is a fine villain, and Samuel Jackson's a really good villain at the end as well.
I would say he's probably the villain.
Yeah, absolutely.
If anything, yeah.
Yeah, look, I still enjoy it, and it's just one of those bits that's, as I said, the revisionist stuff sort of, and same with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It doesn't sit well with me seeing it, because I just sort of go, to take it outside the reality, you lose that same grounding that everything else is so done well and authentically put this little flight of fantasy in there just jars for me.
You definitely
personally.
won't like my number one then.
It also might be a little bit a part of that is a reality of history that Tarantino is not directly tied to.
Being a white man, yeah,
precisely right. Famously, Spike Lee is very critical of this film, which
yes.
which is a very fair criticism to make. And but I understand the discomfort with some of the revisionism. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's really well done as usual, and the actors are great. It's just that little slight jarring bit for me personally. Mine is Reservoir Dogs. Is the next one.
Yeah, that's
only just because.
Very good choice.
Yeah,
it's a really good movie.
You can almost do it as a play, and I think I have seen a play of it. So it's so solid in its characters and dialogue that it just stands without needing some massive cinematic vista or sequence to make it work. And the sort of use of Mr. Pink, Mr. White, and all of these names that are pointless almost for namesake. They've definitely got character, and all the actors in it just carry it so well.
Yeah,
that's a hell of a cast, though.
It's a really stacked cast, and it's such a good film. For me, it's the ultimate heist gone wrong movie. Like a lot of people,
a heist film without a heist.
It is, yeah. You don't need the heist. Like a lot of people a lot of people attribute like Heat as the best heist movie. I'm like, no. Reservoir Dogs is the best heist movie. Excuse you.
Yeah, I find Heat a bit overrated myself, but
Thanks.
yes, yeah.
Heat.
Yeah.
But anyway, Reservoir Dogs. Yes.
Yes. Always yes.
Monica, your next one?
My next one is the classic one, Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, that's my top one.
I love Pulp Fiction. It's I said before we started recording the episode that Samuel L. Jackson, I'm still a bit upset that he did not win an Oscar for his performance as Jules, because he just crushes it in this movie, and it's just such a singular performance.
It's
so good.
amazing.
Just
he does get the best dialogue in it too.
He gets to chew on it, and you can see he's enjoying himself. This film also revived John Travolta's career. It's extremely quotable. It's been parodied a million times. There's
The Simpsons have done it.
The Simpsons have done it. There's also Pulp Disney, which is just Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck voices doing the scene in the apartment asking what Marcellus Wallace looks like, and it's hysterical.
Look, there's so much in this that makes it work. These sort of mixed vignettes that weave together at the end, each one of them's flawless. I don't see. I mean, you can have issues with the violence and the gangster stuff, because it's not nice. It's not nice at all. But it's just done so well, and all the characters, as you were mentioning earlier, it was written. It is like a Pulp Fiction novel, if you want, in terms of each story, but then done in a cinematic way and weave together so well. And these non-linear things, to get it to work like this one does, is a testament to his writing and his ability to do that. And
when you sort of see all these non-linear stories start to sort of like blend together and they're forming this beautiful bow, it's almost a twist.
Essentially.
It completely pays off. And
it totally throws on, like you see John Travolta die and then he's back. But it all works perfectly.
But then, there's all these great moments of just, I don't know, it's like understated stuff that they'll do. Like, when they're sitting in the cafe just before the two misguided robbers decide to take them out, or try to... in their sort of like shorts and t-shirts, and they're talking about, whether that's it, they're going to get out and stuff.
And I love seeing from the beginning of the film, we see Jules using the Path of the Righteous Man quote in a very different way that he uses it at the end of the film.
What he learns is he learns a lesson.
He learns a lesson, yeah, and it's just you just get this. It completes the story and it's quite emotional as well because you can sort of see on the character's face that he's just like, and exhale.
Yeah.
And again, the music throughout it, works so well in all of it. Bruce Willis, I think it revives so many careers. It's amazing how many. I mean, it pretty much made Samuel L. Jackson's career. That's a career-defining character.
And Uma Thurman as well, I think.
Well, it certainly put her into that arena of not just the sort of drama, comedy stuff that she'd done.
Drama,
previously.
comedy, or Pretty Girlfriend. Yeah, she has a lot to chew on in this movie, and she does it so effectively.
Oh, her character's Mia Wallace is fantastic.
Mia's great. I love Mia.
And
there's even like down to like bloody Eric Stoltz as their drug dealers.
And his girlfriend. That's who was that? That's suddenly forgot her name. Sister is. No, it's lost. But anyway, just where she goes, the response to the
Rosanna
adrenaline
Arquette.
being, that's it. I knew it was a sister to one of the.
It was an Arquette.
It's an Arquette. Just her response to the adrenaline needle and that when Uma Thurman pops up. And but it's also the dance scene. You know, if you look at how many iconic things have come from that, and that use of that, I'd call it a family restaurant, I guess. With all of the Hollywood icons in there. To me, this is Quentin Tarantino.
Yes,
it's sort of like it's his way of thinking in terms of creating films and the world that he lives in and adores, and you're seeing it in these amazing little vignettes within Pulp Fiction without needing a big sprawling film to make that point, and that's why I think it's still the top one for me.
Yeah, and the last little cherry on the top in this film for me is the character of Winston Wolfe. We're so good. just the fixer that comes in. And talks to Quentin Tarantino's character about replacing bed sheets and talking about his lovely nurse wife who's coming back from the ship. He's constantly worried about everything. But we got this as a wedding present.
Yep.
So Scott, what are you left with?
Inglourious Bastards.
Pretty good.
I love it.
It's Inglourious Bastards has, I think, one of his greatest scenes at the beginning.
The openings.
That's just
wow. The masterpiece of tension.
Yeah, that is so good. I have to just credit just that opening scene there.
I think the scene when they're in the underground pub as well with Michael Fassbender and Diane
that's
also that's
brilliant.
That's the standout scene for me in the film. It's just so good because everyone's going to die horribly.
Yeah.
And
then we get through that love of cinema and cinema being the key to defeating the Nazis sort of thing.
With a nod to The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, it's just there's so much in it I love, and I find it fun and quotable, and it's got action's good, even though a lot of it's the sort of like the conversational stuff that he does. There are still gunfights in it, and and Brad Pitt as old O'Rain, I love it.
I think as well for some cinema goers, a few that I know were sort of umming and ahhing about seeing the film because it's also in multiple languages. And I was just like, no, go see it. It actually enriches it a little bit because, good dialogue isn't exclusive to English.
Yeah.
That's a good choice. I don't have a problem with that one so much because it's not.
Nazis?
It's not. Yeah, it's not. Well, no, it's not that. It's not really
Nazis
changing.
aren't people.
Yeah,
it's true.
But it's not making a big leap of dismissing things. If you get what I mean, like the revisionist stuff that I was talking about before is actually overturning or ignoring some
horrible
really
realities.
some important things, whereas that one isn't. It's more a flight of fantasy in that.
Once upon a time in Nazi-occupied Europe.
It's not quite the same.
And
So,
there were also genuine attempts on Hitler's life and other members of the Nazi party as well. So you could sort of see someone trying to create a harebrained scheme. Well, he's going to go to a cinema. That's a good opportunity.
and it's sort of got that also self-reflective art house feel to it in parts of it. So it's that's a great film. I have no problem with that one. It's it'd be close there. It just doesn't sit in my heart the same way as the other ones that we've mentioned.
Enough. Monica, do you have any more, or are we done?
No. I'm all covered. I've
there you go.
gushed about what I want to gush about.
I'd probably, one of the things you can look at is how he's written stuff that's made separately, and you've got Natural Born Killers and True Romance.
From Dusk to Dawn.
Yeah.
The Rock.
The Rock.
Uncredited.
I guess that's where he sort of started, isn't it? It's
As a writer,
somewhere.
And he's just released his first novel too, by the way.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, he has. He's also writing a book about film theory, which I'm actually quite interested to read.
Yeah, so his novel is a novelized adaptation of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
No.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Don't know whether I'd read that one though.
No.
I'm curious to know what his prose would be like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Like if he can, what like dialogue is different when you read a book.
Just as a query, like which one would you consider to be the most Tarantino adaptation of his writing? Like when you look at all those other films that have been created, which one sort of comes closest?
I still think Natural Born Killers.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah,
so do I. Yeah,
it's got the weird characters and kind of
yeah
out there stuff, and I mean, it's certainly got an element of Oliver Stone, but it doesn't feel like your typical Oliver Stone movie.
Mm.
No, well, it's not Oliver Stone's script. You can tell that's for sure. And I ultimately don't think it stands up as a film as much as I probably thought when I first saw it, but it certainly does match it in terms of the music that you get in the soundtrack. If you think about it,
the style choices too.
Yeah, the style, and then the those great sort of twisted sitcom situations of remembering
Dangerfield and stuff.
Yeah, that's it certainly is the closest out of all of them. I guess some people might say True Romance is, but I just didn't.
I just don't rate it.
No, I don't think it quite gets the same level of self-reference in terms of film, and bringing in, because Natural Born Killers actually references the media itself.
Well, yeah, it's a commentary on, I guess, the way the media makes heroes out of horrible people.
Yes.
So, yeah, just doesn't shows that Robert Downey Jr. can't do an Australian accent.
Tropic Thunder would beg to differ.
Crikey.
Well, he worked it out by then. He had to practice it a lot.
Well, I feel like they only did that. I feel like they only did that in Tropic Thunder to make fun of his accent in that.
Probably, yes.
But hey, even Meryl Streep struggles with it. So when they pull it off, it's
well done.
Mm.
Well, Tarantino's Australian accent in Django is pretty bad.
I forgot about that. Why?
That's really woeful, and he should stick to directing and writing, not acting.
Yeah.
He works in bits, like I think
I like his voiceover in Hateful Eight. He narrates it.
Yeah.
He does, yeah.
Oh, look, I don't mind him in Dusk Till Dawn and Pulp Fiction. Yeah, but he just doesn't have those chops of actually becoming someone different.
Yeah, exactly. You're who you're looking at. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting that there's these other films out there, which I'm wondering why he never made them himself in some respects.
Could be money, could have written them on a...
Yeah, or maybe they're the money
Written the
to
set
budget
or-
the films.
yeah.
Maybe there's some contractual thing as well.
But, yeah. Writer, director.
Absolutely. And iconic for a reason.
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino. I hope you guys enjoy our first look at a director and their work. There are plenty of other great directors I'm sure we will be considering to do another one of these later.
And feel free to suggest one.
Yeah, please send your recommendations.
Kevin Smith.
Subliminal.
I just want to watch Jason suffer.
Or we can talk about Clerks too if you want.
Masterpiece.
Oh.
Helped. Tarantino was the first person to watch the first cut of Clerks 2.
I believe that.
Kevin Smith went to his house, first cut of it. Him and Robert Rodriguez together.
I would love to see Tarantino's reaction to the pillow pants scene.
Probably thought it was amazing.
He probably did.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Pop Culture. I've been Scott.
I've been Jason.
And I'm still Monica.